Welcome back, everyone. Today we'll be recapping the anime Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World. Michio is a gamer and doesn't have a whole lot to look forward to in the real world. One day he wakes up in another world, the world of the cheap-looking online video game he's been playing for a while. He's not all that affected by the massive change, and Michio simply assumes this is part of the game as a virtual reality. He attacks a few bandits within the village he's woken up in, searching for a magical bandana that he thinks will allow him to move on to level 2. After defeating the criminals and thieves in the village and attempting to log out, Michio quickly realizes he can't log out and is trapped in this new reality. After some confusion, Michio understands that he has no choice but to move forward and live as a character in the video game. The village elder pays him a visit and brings him fresh clothes and the magic bandana he had been searching for. The elder also hands over one of the bandits from earlier, insisting Michio take him to the nearby town and sell him for money as thanks for saving him. Michio realizes this video game world that has become his reality is a dangerous, abnormal world with new rules and roles. Notably, this world participates in a massive slave trade. Michio takes his trusted sword, Durendal, and a few other powered-up accessories like the bandana and begins his quest in this new world. Michio meets with the slave trader in the bustling, lively town of Vale and sells off his bandit. Afterwards, the slave trader finds Michio again and tells him about a mysterious new labyrinth in the forest nearby. Michio is intrigued by this, but not as intrigued as he is by the trader's beautiful, pale-faced, and orange-haired slave, Roxanne. She is in a maid costume that Michio can't look away from, and the slave trader notices how interested Michio seems. After some back and forth about the labyrinth, the slave trader offers to sell Roxanne to Michio. He tells Michio that Roxanne isn't just a beautiful woman, she's also a wolfkin, a part wolf warrior, which is why she has fluffy ears and a long tail. Michio uses this opportunity to ask the slave master lots of questions. He learns a lot about the slave trade itself. For example, slaves must obey their masters permanently, or they face being outlawed and eventually killed. They'll be obedient until they die. During their entire meeting, Roxanne lingers in the background. At this point, Michio would do almost anything to have Roxanne join him, but the trader wants far too much money for her. After seeing how desperate Michio really is, the trader lowers the price just a bit and gives Michio a few days to gather the funds. He promises that Roxanne will be waiting if he can get the money. Michio almost drives himself crazy imagining someone else taking Roxanne home, and he knows he'll never be able to forget her and has to have her. Before starting his quest, Michio realizes he needs to switch up his weaponry a bit, believing Durendal will attract too much attention from looters and thieves. He takes the sword to a blacksmith, and the blacksmith doesn't seem all that impressed with Michio's incredible weapon, and doesn't notice that the sword Michio is interested in buying has an open slot for powers. Here, Michio realizes that he can see things others don't, including the power boosts of weapons. Michio switches out his sword and heads off to the labyrinth. He takes on a few different monsters, including weird pointy trees that drop valuable branches when they die. Michio takes them down with ease, but slowly his thoughts begin to turn dark, and he begins to question the point of his entire journey, his entire life. The power of his weapons and movements are literally draining the power and positivity out of him. Once he realizes there are external forces at work and he isn't actually depressed, he is revitalized by his powerful sword and goes off to sell all the dropped loot he found. He's still coming up way too short and cannot afford Roxanne. He'd have to be slaying monsters and collecting loot for days, weeks even, to even come close to affording his dream girl. He enters the labyrinth and takes a seat, trying to brainstorm easier ways to make money. After some time, he accidentally opens a secret passageway. Michio can't believe his luck when he spots a sparkling treasure chest and doesn't realize the doorway is closing behind him. Too late, Michio realizes he's been trapped by the weird tree branches and he has to fight savagely for his life. It almost seems like they're going to overtake him. They are so powerful and slam him into a wall, and Michio realizes he has to engage his overwhelming power to get out of here. After a massive struggle, Michio finally exits the dungeon, hurt but not fatally so. However, he decides that he's sick of slaying monsters and fighting for his life like this. He passes a slain bandit with his arm missing and overhears some villagers discussing the risks of hunting criminals for money. He figures if he's going to be in harm's way anyway, he might as well start hunting bandits, even though it will make them and their partners come after him. He might be in danger, but their bounties will get him more money than monsters and dropped loot will. After unsuccessfully hunting bandits around town, Michio realizes there's no better place to find them than the slums. He decides to transport himself there and begins hunting. He finds no luck in the daytime and leaves disgusted by the stench and poverty he witnesses. As he washes himself, he begins to reflect on how he's leveled up and hardly ever feels depressed or worn down anymore. Michio returns to the repulsive slums at night and finds that it's much different than it was in the daytime. He finds plenty of thieves to go around. In addition to the buffet of potential bounties, Michio also comes across many gorgeous women and is being flirted with endlessly as they wave at him and attract him behind glass. Despite all the temptation, he decides he's going to wait for Roxanne. He speaks to a villager at a bar and learns a lot about gangs of bandits and how they operate and how things can really get crazy when a leader is killed. The information is valuable and Michio moves on to hunt some criminals, realizing his time to buy Roxanne is almost up. After spying on some bandits, Michio is led to their leader, Hugo. He continues, spying on the group from a distance, eventually following them to their secret base. He makes a plan for tomorrow and, after a long night of espionage, he goes home to dream about Roxanne. The morning after, Michio heads back to the secret base and lies about killing the bandits' boss, Hugo. He even pulls out a bandana and pretends it's Hugo's enchanted one. He makes quick work of the greedy thief who tries to make a grab for it and sneaks into the base, killing all the criminals as they sleep and collecting body parts to offer for the bounty. As he tries to sleep that night, Michio reflects on what he's done and begins to feel remorse for all the lives he's taken. Even if it started as a video game, to him and all the others in the world, it's now real. He can't help but wonder how he'll live with himself, but then reminds himself that this is just what he has to do to survive in this weird new reality. He accepts that this is how it has to be, and his guilt fades away. The next day, he collects the bounties of the criminals. Finally, he has enough money to purchase Roxanne from the slaver. Michio is thrilled to see the beautiful, bouncy Roxanne again. He hands over his stacks of coins, eager to take her home with him, but when she comes out, she doesn't look so happy. With her eyes down and a frown, Roxanne tells Michio that she was excited to go with him, but doubted that he would come back for her after he left. She thinks he is undeserving of her because she was so doubtful, and insists he shouldn't buy her. Michio is overcome with affection, immediately taken with how sweet and polite Roxanne is. He insists it's okay and that he wants to bring her home, and she seems relieved. The slaver links them through their ID cards, and finally the deal is done. Michio can't believe his luck and can't believe he finally has the girl he's been dreaming about for 5 long days. The two go to an inn, and the innkeeper books them 2 rooms. As they head upstairs, Michio realizes that Roxanne is trailing behind him and looking down, seeming apprehensive. He tries comforting her, playing with her ears after asking her permission to do so, and getting lost in his not-so-wholesome thoughts. He shakes himself out of it and looks around, realizing the room actually only has 1 bed. Roxanne reveals that she asked the innkeeper to change the reservation from 2 beds to 1, and Michio can't believe it. Clearly, Roxanne and the innkeeper know the vibes. Michio gives Roxanne the details about the labyrinth and lets her know that he purchased her because in addition to sharing his bed, he also wants her to fight with him in the labyrinth and act as a warrior. Roxanne agrees and the two go shopping for new equipment and clothing. Michio learns that Roxanne has quite particular tastes. As Roxanne works on fixing some of his equipment up, Michio sees more and more of Roxanne, even getting a glimpse of her long, fluffy tail. The innkeeper sends up hot water and Michio requests Roxanne's help bathing. But of course, she needs his help in washing herself back. Michio begins to wash her back, getting a nice look at her melons and thinking dirty thoughts. He feels guilty at times for his feelings toward Roxanne, but overcomes that with ease. He distracts himself by playing with and complimenting her orange hair, tugging on the bow holding it in place. He washes her all over, including her long orange tail, which she then shakes in his face after he questions her about it. Once again, he can't believe his luck. He moves her around on the bed so that he can shampoo her hair. She does the same for him, moving her fingers through it in a comfortable motion. She dries him off, giving Michio a full frontal picture of herself. Roxanne blushes and tells Michio she'll continue to wear the maid uniform her old master made her wear. Michio lets her know that he doesn't care if she wears it or not, and he just wants her, and wants her to keep sitting with him. He also asks her to kiss him daily. He wants more, but he knows that he should take things pretty slow with Roxanne since she always seems so nervous. Things get a little hot and heavy here, but if you want to see more, make sure you keep subscribing and liking these videos. The two go to sleep together, and the next morning, their quest begins after some more kissing. Michio and Roxanne suit up with all their equipment, and Roxanne teaches Michio about enhanced equipment, including skill crystals. These crystals trigger different abilities and enable people to earn a lot more money with their loot. They trap the magic and energy of monsters that are killed and then can be sold at a very high value. Michio is upset that he doesn't have any and has been killing monsters without them for so long. But as Roxanne tries to make Michio feel better, they are attacked by one of the dungeon's many monsters. Michio handles the monster with ease, and Roxanne can't believe how well he can fight and watches him wide-eyed in awe. Michio enjoys the extra attention, but reminds Roxanne that she has to keep the knowledge of his talent and his amazing weapons between them as a secret. Roxanne happily agrees. They collect some more items to sell and head out after a hard day's work. Back at the inn, Michio showers Roxanne with praise and thanks for her assistance in the dungeon. She gets shy under his gaze and tells Michio that nobody used to listen to her when she was with her old master, and she isn't used to being thanked like this. Michio feels bad for her and has her sit next to him and comforts her. He also lets her know that she doesn't need his permission to be near him and should come to him whenever she wants to do so. He starts to play with her ears, which Roxanne enjoys and fantasizes about the way they might taste. The two chat for a bit, and Roxanne appears to get sad. To his surprise, she asks Michio if one day he's going to go back home to the real world. Michio doesn't seem sure, but insists that he thinks even if he could, he wouldn't because he wouldn't want to leave her and what they have. Roxanne worries that he would sell her back to nasty masters if he ever went back and didn't need her help any longer. Michio says he would never abandon her, but he also lets her know that one day he hopes to add more members to their little crew. She insists that adding members like that is not only okay with her, but completely natural. He has her permission to form a harem. Eventually, Michio and Roxanne go out and purchase the magical crystals Roxanne told Michio about. Roxanne teaches Michio all about them. Some people sell them when the crystals change to a certain color or the amount of kills stored within them reaches a certain number. But every person who uses one is different, and they can be sold at different times. Every time they kill a monster, the colors change and their value increases. Michio asks Roxanne lots of questions, including about healing properties. She informs him that not only monks and priests have healing abilities, and those powers occur after defeating monsters bare-handed, without the aid of a weapon. After Roxanne's lesson, the duo continues killing monsters in the labyrinth, and they realize Michio has the ability to gain more energy from the crystals than any other person. Lucky as always. Again, he swears Roxanne to secrecy about his new abilities. As they keep fighting, Michio realizes Roxanne has extra abilities too, and the more they fight, the better they do. Michio asks Roxanne to fight without weapons, using only her hands so they can gain healing abilities. They work as a team. Thanks to their use of hand-to-hand combat, Michio and Roxanne's healing powers are revealed. Later on, exhausted after their successful campaign against the monsters, Michio and Roxanne retire to their single bedroom. The two again wash each other, but when Michio moves to start washing Roxanne back, she tells him it isn't necessary, because she's a slave and he's her master, and it's not right. Next, the duo decide that they should go against a serious boss within the dungeon to surpass level 1 and move on to the next level. Can they do it? Will they be successful? Subscribe and let us know in the comments below if we should continue recapping this series and what else you want to see.